Okay, Adam Smith, welcome to The New Mind.
Thank you for having me.
I invited you on, Adam, because we met on another podcast. Well, actually, we didn't meet on the podcast. We were told to go away. And we went and had a coffee, and I sat with you for about 5 minutes and just thought, wow, this guy really knows his stuff. And I had no idea who you were before that. We were just thrust together, the universe aligned. So you're a high performance coach,
Yes.
which lots of people are. But one of the reasons that I invited you on was because we sat and talked, and like I said, there was a lot of, I think, more complex thinking in the conversation. I could see that you knew a lot. And I thought, well, do you know what? Let's have him on. Also, both of us have got ADHD. So I think there's an element of we both think in a very similar way. We kind of get to the point quite quickly. And I think that's what happened in that conversation. But I also think that's really good for a podcast, when you can get straight to the nitty gritty and kind of avoid a lot of the fluff. So there is a little bit of a backstory, which you've already said you're really bored of talking about. So we're not going to go into it for too much detail, because I just think that, you know, there's no point if you don't want to. But where can people sort of find out more about your background before we start? So if they do want to learn more about you personally, where do they find you?
Probably LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I've got the world's most common name. So if you Google me, it'll come up with the guy on the £20 note. But I think that it's, their Instagram, talk on their TikTok, etc.
What's your business name?
A-Game Consultancy.
So they could put that into Google.
Yes, yeah, and you'd find that. And we have a podcast called A-Game Unfiltered, which is probably the best insight as to who we are and what we do and how we help people. So
to find out more, and we'll put that into the link, people can find out more about your background there. But there is a little bit of a story that I'd like to share. So before you were doing this, who were you? What were you doing?
So I won't go too far back. I was in hospitality before, working in senior management teams, and I loved it. The highs were high, the lows were horrendous. So yes, it was fun, and met a lot of great people, and went around some amazing parts of the world, etc. But the lows were crippling. I'd go as far to say that the hangovers, the regret, the character that I felt I had to play for other people, and just created this facade about who I really was, because I never really felt comfortable in who I was. So I had to seek validation from external people in any way that I could, whether that's through drinking, trying to impress people about, how many people you've slept with, just stupid bullshit in your 20s, basically. And then it all sort of came to a head in my late 20s, early 30s. I had some real big challenges at work. I was highly stressed, managing a large team. And at Christmas time in hospitality, it's horrendous, as you can probably imagine, 16-hour days, etc., etc. And that meant that I was neglecting my romantic relationship at the time. I wasn't really associating myself with friends or family, just became a bit of an introvert in a sense, because you're just around chaos and noise the whole time. So to fast forward a little bit, I got signed off work with depression. I went to the doctor and they just said, are you sleeping very well at the moment? No. Is your energy levels low? Yeah. Do you sort of feel like you have much zest for life right now? No. What are your eating habits like? I went, pretty poor. Are you drinking alcohol? Yes, quite a lot. Oh, you've got depression. I was like, oh no. So it's
I don't mean to laugh at that point.
It's like they handed me like this weight to say, you're now depressed. We recommend that you go on to these tablets, and this is going to help you feel better. But I knew better than that. I've studied Tony Robbins for probably nearly 2 decades now. I've been obsessed with self-development for a long time, but that was my secret life. The forward-thinking, the front-facing life rather was negative, but the personal life behind the scenes was always forward-thinking, really positive.
Curious.
Correct. Always wanting to learn. Love people, fascinated by behaviour. Why do they do what they do? How can we improve it? Was always my mindset. And this helped with managing people, don't get me wrong, but I became a master of communication to others, not to myself.
Yeah.
So I would build this character, then go home, shame myself, guilt myself. I'm an idiot. Who the fuck do you think you are? I didn't even know who I was. Trying to find my way.
Can I ask a question though? Because obviously there's a fragmented self there. So you've got, the person that sits in the back that's doing all the background work and the discovery of self and others and that curiosity of human behaviour. And then the front self is the imposter, if you like, the part of you that is maybe a protector part. So it's where you feel safe. And there's a reason that people have their safety protector self. But what was it that you actually felt shame over? Was it that you were doing things, other than the fact that you felt like you weren't being authentic, were you doing things that you felt ashamed of?
Yeah, it was ridiculing others to seek validation through laughter. I can make people laugh on a dime.
So the defense mechanism.
Correct. So I would deflect my own insecurities, put that out to somebody else. I'd be the guy that would make an inappropriate joke about children in need when it's on.
Yeah.
But then I'd also be the guy at home that might get upset by watching it and would probably donate money.
Well, that's so Freudian, isn't it?
Correct.
Like something that makes you feel vulnerable. Now I've got to, have this defense mechanism so nobody else sees the vulnerability.
That's it. It's like I guess like a safety net, but it's, not very safe whatsoever, right? So that would then compound to eventually losing my relationship, losing my job. I lost 3 family members within the space of about 3 months. And then, honestly, as horrific as this may sound to some people, the loss of identity, because now I don't even know who I am or what's going on. I think that's one of the most painful things we can experience as people.
I think you're right, yeah.
Loss of identity, or knowing who you are but not feeling comfortable in who you are. So that's a challenge I also put towards myself when I started working on myself was, did you lose your identity, or have you never felt comfortable living
expressing
in
it?
Correct. So it's probably more that one, in all honesty. Everyone knows what their favourite film is. Everyone knows what they find funny and what they don't. Everyone knows where their favourite holiday destination actually is, etc., etc. So therefore, that's part of your identity. So you do know who you are, but you put out an outward-facing mask, as it were. So anyway, again, fast forward a few more months, more alcohol, more one-night stands, more stupid shit, validation. And it got to a point where my best friend's dad died. He had a heart attack in the middle of the night. And it wasn't like a second dad to me or anything like that, but I love this man to bits. And that just hit me for 6. So went to the funeral, looking around at all this pain. And I thought, what's the fucking point? So I'd had suicidal ideology before. I'd Googled it and it actually came up with stuff. Whereas that's 7 or 8 years ago now. Now, as soon as you type in suicide, it comes up with a trigger, right? Yeah. So, but at the time, it's like, oh, these are the best ways. If you want to go pain-free, you can do pills or you can do this. You're like, what the hell if you want to do it in a more aggressive...
so it's still easy to find that information, unfortunately.
It's wild.
I mean, we shouldn't give any insights into how,
of course
but you still can.
That's it. So if you want to go in a more dramatic way, do a train. And I'm like, fucking hell.
Yeah.
So they were just thoughts, but I'd had about 8 pints at the wake and I was still almost normal because I was drinking so much at the time.
Yeah.
People just thought he's fine. And to be honest, I was, because while working in a certain venue that I managed, it was almost encouraged to drink with the guests.
Sounds very military style, actually.
It's just horrendous.
Encouraging you to drink and...
It builds rapport.
Yeah.
But when there's 28 shots in a bottle of vodka, for instance, when you're 28 shots in, while working, plus beers, plus the afters, you're almost a bottle and a half of spirit down and you're still almost able to function on a weekend. Frightening. And then you trust it to count money and to, clean down the place and everything else. But you drank so much that it was almost the norm. So when you're setting up the bar, people would come in at 2 p.m. Shot? Yeah, shot. Why not? It's 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. Why wouldn't you have a shot? It's like that. Wild. So, but anyway, so I just thought, right, the wake is about 5 minutes away from Mum and Dad's house because it was back home in Harrogate. And I said goodbye to Mum and Dad and I thought, this is the last time I'm going to see them because I just want to end it now. So I just got in the car and I thought, right, how can I do this without impacting anybody else? How can I hurt myself? I don't want to cause harm to any other drivers or anything like that. And again, I know they have a false confidence that when you're drinking and driving, you think you're a really good driver. But because I was just drinking so much, it almost wasn't that bad. Yeah. So I was going, really slow everywhere. And I thought, right, 100 miles an hour into a bridge. That's how I'm going to do it. Pick the spot, go in at fast pace. And I just got a call. It just said, Mum is calling. And I was like, oh shit. It almost like snapped me out of my state straight away. And I was like, fuck. So I just answered it. She's like, hi Adam, you've left your wallet here. Do you want me to drop it off for you later? I was like, what am I doing? And I just slammed the brakes on, and the car like sort of span out of control like you see on the movies. Yeah. And I just pulled into a lay-by and I just sobbed for hours. And I thought,
the most normal moment was the bit that broke the
Correct.
state.
All it needed to say was "Mum is calling." I was like, "Shit, what am I
Well,
doing?"
that is divine intervention, if ever that was a thing.
It is, and people talk to me about, do you believe in fate and this and that? And not really. I just think it's dumb luck. I think a lot of things that happen in life are dumb luck.
I disagree with that, Adam.
Do you?
I really have much more interest in physics and frequencies and energies and the idea of quantum mechanics and quantum entanglement. There's been too many coincidences, which Carl Jung would refer to as synchronicities. And I think what we see now is, just to give some layer of insight for other people, it's up to, obviously you've got your beliefs and I've got mine, and I don't want to disagree, but there is something in the way that Eastern philosophies have been spoken of for thousands of years. And then you've got the ancient Egyptians that talk about the Hermetic principles, and you've got all these different ideas. And now science is sort of matching that and going, do you know what? There's some kind of way of proving this. Now, I know with science you can have one study and 10 studies that disprove that one study. But what I'm saying is, there's a lot of information out there that would suggest that synchronicities and alignment and, people talk about manifestation a lot, but it is to do with frequencies. It is to do with energy. You can kind of feel good after listening to binaural beats, or you can feel good after changing the frequency in terms of how you're thinking. So when we start to look at frequencies and the science of that, we can then say perhaps there was something unconsciously that you did that day that meant that your mum was going to call. It may not have been intentional, but there's something working at the back all the time. And I just wonder if there was more to it than...
Yeah, I think that, so when people say about, so I said that before and someone said, an example of, say, footballers, they might go out on the park all the time. They might play on a Sunday, then it just so happens that scout comes to watch that game and they pick you up that time. But I think that's the repetition thing, right?
Yeah.
Ed Sheeran kept doing busking, kept showing up. Then someone saw him and everyone goes, "Oh my God, how lucky is Ed Sheeran?"
You've got to put the time in to create the frequency.
Absolutely.
There's no way around that. You have to do the work.
With this instance, though, I don't necessarily think it was like a higher power per se or anything like that. I think it was just very fortunate that it happened, and I'm really glad that it did, obviously.
And your mum may well have picked something up that day.
Correct.
Because your behaviour, although you weren't giving anything off consciously, it may just be that she thought, he's forgotten his, maybe
he was a bit down earlier.
Yeah. Who knows?
Exactly. So what I did, because I've done so much work on myself secretly to this point, it was almost like, right, what can I be grateful for now? Because I am rock bottom. This is the worst I've ever felt. I've never felt more shame. I've never felt more guilt. I now understand that shame and guilt are only formed by judgment. And I'm aiming judgment towards myself, saying, I'm an idiot, I'm a piece of shit. What on earth were you about to do to yourself? Your poor mother, your poor father, yada, yada, yada. And I said, pause. What can I be grateful for? How lucky am I to have a mother and father that are still together, married, loving marriage? They love me. They're supportive of me. I've got my brother. I've got his wife. I've got a nephew at the time, etc., etc. So I went back home and I thought, right, what's the best solution? I'll go out and get pissed again. So I just went home and drank even more. But then the next morning was the wake-up call that I needed. It was just that, right, I need to really get my shit together. And it was when I spoke to my dad at one point, actually, and we are very close in the sense of I love him dearly, but not in the sense of he wouldn't ever give me like a father-son talk unless he really had to. Like a lot of men my age, with their fathers and their fathers, etc. He just said, I can't keep watching you destroy yourself like this. And he cried down the phone. And that was one of the moments in time where I thought, oh my God, like for him to show that level of emotion. I've only ever seen him cry twice in my life, both at funerals for context. And then I heard him cry down the phone. I was like, oh my God, this must really be hitting home. Because I've heard my mum get upset over the struggles and the challenges that I've had before, but never my dad. It just hit different. And because I'd never seen him really display emotion outside of what you'd consider an air quote normal setting. Yeah. I thought, my God, Adam, something must be awry here. So anyway, it wasn't a perfect transition into self-discovery and high performance, right? But over the last, I'd say, 4 or 5 years, I've really worked hard to create the version of me that I do love and that I know I can be and that I know that I am at my core, unapologetically even though it's come with a high level of criticism because people have thought of me as one thing and now I'm another thing. So for some people, for me to go from restaurant manager to high performance coach was just too big a jump in their mind. So I had several people from my hometown trying to tear me down and, you know, ridiculing me online and setting up WhatsApp chats that I found out about in my name.
Wow.
Yeah, taking the piss out of me. I had one girl who was on the verge of doing serious harm to herself. I talked her down from a ledge. 2 days later, she sent me my own story on Instagram, ridiculing me, thinking she was sending it to somebody else. Yes.
Oh dear.
Oh dear.
Oh dear.
Now, I deactivated my Instagram, not because of that, just because it wasn't really serving me. I get most of my clients on LinkedIn or through our website or podcast, etc. So I didn't really need it as a tool, and it's just distraction, etc. When I reactivated it the other day and I was talking about forgiveness, and I gave that example, no names were mentioned, no story. And she blocked me after that incident because she was so embarrassed. She had the gall to message me, unblock me, and message me the other day saying, I can't believe you've done this, you need to apologise to me. Right, first and foremost, I didn't mention your name. I never mentioned really any intimate details, essentially. And you've not once apologised to me for the damage you did to me in that moment, because I talked you down from potentially harming yourself, killing yourself, and then you've ridiculed me. So I've created forgiveness and compassion for you. I certainly don't have to now. Oh, I thought because you're a coach, you should do this. And that's the problem. A lot of people think because I'm a coach, I can't tell someone to fuck off. I don't have to put, you know, crystals up my arse and sing Kumbaya every day.
No, you do.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's the key type performance.
I don't know what kind of coach you are.
Get those crystals up there. So, but the problem is that I do have compassion and empathy for a lot of people. But if you are coming at me with that kind of energy, I am going to match it.
You're allowed to have boundaries as well.
Correct.
I mean, like, what's the point of just being open to anybody's opinion and criticism and then just going, give it to me?
Yeah, oh, thank you so much for that observation.
I am the oracle.
Correct. So, no, I don't profess that whatsoever.
No.
But yeah, so there have been a lot of challenges since then, and there's a constant state of refinement. And, you know, I'm now 4.5 years without alcohol. I've lost 30 kilograms in the last few years. I'm in a healthy relationship with myself, with my partner, with my friends, with all sorts of things. And I've set up a successful business off the back of it. So I am really proud of how far I've come, but I know what it's like to feel worthless. I know what it's like to get to the depths of despair and the feeling that there is no hope out there, and that's what a lot of people do when they tend to end their lives with the notes that they leave. They feel worthless and they feel like a burden.
Yes.
So and I get that. It's not their go through. So I have the empathy to understand that it's not, you know, your go through isn't my go through, but I understand the feeling of being like a piece of shit and not good enough.
A couple of major points here is one of the things that I think really helped you in the moment, other than your mum calling you because she'd forgotten your wallet, was that you'd done a lot of background work. So you've prefaced this and you said, you know, I'd been sort of doing a lot of self-study and a lot of curiosity was in place, which is, I always say for a lot of people, you have to go to rock bottom, but it's the tool of curiosity that will build you back up. And that's often not just in that moment, it's often been with you for a long time. And I often make the joke about, you know, curiosity killed the cat, but I've got ADHD, so I like a bit of risk, you know, and it is, you've got to be willing to sort of take yourself out of your comfort zone and step into that curiosity and be uncomfortable. But that was going on in the background already. And you already had some awareness of wanting to, even if it wasn't in action and the momentum hadn't built yet, there was a case that you obviously wanted something beyond where you were. Really important point. The reason I say about ADHD, and I don't want to make this the ADHD podcast because there's so much more to this story, and to both you and I and everybody else with ADHD, it's a bit boring talking about ADHD all the time, but necessary because there's a couple of things here. ADHD and some form of addiction goes hand in hand most of the time because of the dopamine issue, retaining dopamine. And I think a lot of trauma comes from being an addict or spending time with people that are addicts. And a lot of shame and guilt, like you mentioned. And the reason I think that's really, really important is because sometimes the addiction is not always just a simple case of, well, just don't drink. You're in an environment, and that's why I mentioned the military. You're in an environment which encourages it because of building rapport. So you're almost sort of seen as, a problem if you're not joining the rest of the people that are, you know, doing that thing. But also because of the lack of dopamine retainment, perhaps it's harder for you to then just step out of it. We also know, and I always say this to remind people, that this is neurobiological. Addiction isn't just psychological, it's a physical thing. Because when we drink alcohol, GABA glutamate separates. GABA rises, glutamate lowers, and glutamate takes longer to come back up, whereas GABA comes down quicker. So you can end up feeling more, this is the hair of the dog thing, you can end up feeling more like you need a drink the next day and more anxious the next day because you've altered the neurochemistry. Therefore, the next day when someone comes in at 2 p.m, another shot, yes please, because you're looking for balance. Most people with ADHD or addiction and complex PTSD and other sort of personality disorders, they're looking for balance. They're not looking to be a problem. They're not looking to be a dick. They're looking for balance in themselves. And I think when you can't achieve that balance, and of course receptors in the brain get tired, so you're never going to achieve balance through substances or reliance on something else, then it's the doom state, which is where those suicidal ideations come in. And especially for men, which I want to touch on, men with ADHD or men with trauma or men with addictions, this idea of I am not enough, because let's face it, in the 1960s, men were men. I know this sounds really misogynistic, what I'm about to say, but it's important.
It's true, though.
It's true. Yeah. Men were men, women were women. We knew our roles. Women didn't really step into a masculine energy very often. Men certainly weren't stepping into a feminine energy. And if they were, they weren't making that known to anyone. So men went to work, they went to the pub afterwards, they had their community there. Women were a community around a kitchen table all looking after the kids. And then what's happened is this huge shift where I think certainly, I mean, we speak about social media a lot, but I certainly didn't at 46 have social media growing up. I didn't have a mobile phone until I was 19. I didn't use the internet on dial-up until I was 22, and then it took 4 hours to load up a page, so what was the point? And it's only in the last 12 years really. So I grew up all that time without that added pressure. Things that you've spoken about there, people from your hometown ridiculing you, well, it just didn't happen. You know, your next door neighbour might have called you a fat slag when you walked past their house, but I mean, you'd go and punch them on the nose and that would be it, job done. There wasn't this massive wave of problems. All of those things, plus how masculinity has changed. And I guess also knowing too much. We know so much now. It's almost like information overload. And if you're trying to make a decision, I mean, you could look at so many different theories around this. There's decision paralysis, isn't there? There's also that kind of repetition compulsion if there's unmet needs from childhood. So all of these things bunched together make for quite a toxic problem.
Yeah.
And that's where you come in now, because you're able to break that down with people. And I think particularly men, although I'm sure that you work with women as well, but, you know, there's this need for someone who's lived the experience, someone who gets the neurological side of it from living that and having ADHD, but also from having the addictions, but somebody that can also, I think, offer. We spoke about, before we got here, Adler and Freud. And you asked me if I like the book, Courage to be Disliked. And I was like, I don't like all of Adler's theories, but what I like is his no bullshit approach. However, I also am very much about, but let's not take away the fact that people don't understand their unconscious well enough either. We need to have the empathy for the fact that they don't know yet with a no bullshit approach combined. And I think that's you.
Yeah, so I had a client who said, my wife hates it because I just never open up about my emotions. I said, okay, let's do a little bit of back work here. Let's understand this. Can you remember what you had for lunch last Tuesday? No. So me asking you what happened when you were 7 is going to be quite challenging off the bat. Would you agree? Absolutely. Can you bring in some memories, though, from childhood so we can try and piece something together? So I'll get them to close their eyes. I'll get them to deep focus, put relaxing music on. You won't remember being born. You won't remember necessarily being at nursery school. Do you remember the name of the nursery school? Yeah, it was called St. John's. No problem. Okay, so the troubled emotion that you have, or lack of emotion, is that you don't open up. That's the thing that we want to get rid of or understand today. Is that correct? Absolutely. So when you were 5 or 6, is anything showing up for you there? Any teachers' names, any school kids? Oh, yeah, Mrs. Jones, and I remember Dave and Steve. Cool, no problem. Any memories showing up for you there? No, okay. So any times when you showed emotion and someone told you off, is anything showing up there? He's like, yeah, when I was 8, my uncle died, and he's this client from Ghana, and his words, not mine, men from Africa don't show emotion. That's what he was being taught from a very young age. I said, okay. I said, any memories showing up for that from the funeral though? Yeah, I was crying outside and my dad smacked me on the back of the head and told me African boys don't cry. Okay, how are you feeling as you're talking about this now? He's like, I just can't believe it. Is the link from that to that? I said, possibly, but let's do a bit more digging. So then we started to work through it. Long story short, mother was dismissive of emotion. His first football coach was dismissive of emotion. I said, you're just being told over and over again that showing emotion is a bad thing. So why would you now in the present show emotion to your partner if you think that you're going to get punished?
And judged.
Correct. Or fixed, or told that you're stupid, or told not to worry. This is the problem that we have. People go, oh, men just need to talk. Bollocks. Absolute bollocks. I know loads of men that talk about their emotions. I've coached over 500 people.
It doesn't solve the problem. In fact, it can exacerbate the problem.
450 of those are men that I've coached. So that's enough data, I would suggest, to say that's absolute nonsense. I'm part of some men's groups where men have no issue opening up, but they're fearful of someone going, don't worry about it, mate. Man up, mate. Or their wives potentially saying, oh, you're overreacting. And that's the challenge. So the education that I'm trying to instill in my clients, but also in the wider audience, is that when people do speak to you, men or women, they're not looking for a solution more often than not. They're looking to just speak, and they're looking to get it off the chest, and then you can just sit with it. So a 3 sort of pronged question that I would encourage anyone in a relationship to use, but caveat it first, otherwise you sound like a right weirdo. I heard this on a podcast and I think we should give it a try, for instance. Don't just go home and do this because they're going to think you're really strange. But it works because it's all we want. So do you want to talk about it? Say they've said, oh, I've had a really shit day at work. I'm hearing you. Okay. Do you want to talk about it? Do you want to be left alone? Or do you want a hug? Oh, I just want to talk about it. Go. Well, my boss said this, then they did that, then this happened, blah, 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 blah. That does sound really challenging. Because then you want to label the emotion. If they've said, I've had a shit day, go, that does sound like a shit day. And you can do this with kids too. Mummy, I'm ugly. Mummy, I'm stupid. No, you're not, sweetheart. Don't be so stupid. So now they're stupid again, or they're ugly and stupid. They say, Mummy, I'm ugly. And they go, don't be so stupid. Now they think they're stupid and they think they're ugly. So instead it can be ugly. Oh, where's that come from? Or, Mummy, I've had a hard day. Oh, what happened? Oh, I fell over, then my teacher shouted at me. That does sound like a hard day. And really, as adults, we're all just big children, right? In some way, shape or form.
For sure.
So if your partner comes home, don't fix it. Don't jump to the rescue. Ask that series of questions, and then you can just sit quietly. Because sometimes, out of the experience of my clients, they say, my wife will just say, well, after they've declared what the problem was, expecting the man to either join in or to fix it or what have you. Like, well, you don't want me to fix it, so what is it you need from me?
Well, that's a very good question. How can I help?
Yeah. What is it you need from me in this moment? I just want to talk at you for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
No problem. And then you can do it, because that's what I hate the phrase, to be honest, safe space. But emotional safety is key, especially with people with low self-esteem, people on the spectrum.
It's the most, I think, beyond above love, that's everything.
If you can offer that to someone, it's invaluable.
It is invaluable, yeah.
So that's the space I do. So with this particular client, going back a few steps, I said, you need to communicate this with your partner. You need to let them know that you're aware of it, you know why it started, and you want to work on it together, because then it's a collective. So then she's not thinking, he's not interested in me, he's not emotionally available. No, he had an emotionally abject father, essentially. He wasn't, I'd say, emotionally unavailable most of the time, physically not available because he's usually out working long hours, right? So he didn't really have a male figure to turn to demonstrate how to show emotion, because his father didn't speak. He got more love from his mother than he did from his father. So rejection breeds obsession.
Yes.
So the perceived rejection of emotion is from his father. So I want to be like my father because I want to crave his love. I crave his love more than I do my mother's because I'm getting it in spades from her. So what do I need to do? I need to act like him in the hope that he'll see me. Then what some boys do is they're not getting any attention from good work. They go, scored the winning goal at football today. Okay, well done. Then they start behaving badly to get their attention. And that's the only way that they can get love.
And that's when they turn to anger as an expression, because if I can make you cry, then I'm getting attention.
Yeah.
Or if I can make you shout at me, I'm getting attention. And I think the other thing to say here is there are biological sex differences in the brain. So women have more white matter generally, which means their processing is a lot quicker. So you're talking to me about something, my brain is going ding, 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 while it's also over there doing something else. I'm not saying this is all women and not men. I'm saying generally. And then generally men have more grey matter, which is much more laser focused. This is where you get the mechanics and the engineers and the, your coders and stuff. Generally men's jobs, generally more nurturing, empathetic jobs for women. Again, there are, that's not straight down the line. But the reason for that is, and again, they say women are more wired for empathy, men are more wired for logic. And you can see that with the way that, if you look at the biological sex differences, boys play with toys, girls play with toys. It's there from the beginning. And we can't dismiss that moving forward. So when people say it's good to talk, it is good to talk, but often it's more important to get down into the body, to actually assess when I'm talking, what am I feeling? Because a lot of the cellular mapping, of course, we've got the neurological stuff and we've got all those pathways and we've got all of those really clever systems that are joining together in the brain, but that joins into the body as well. And you've got so many cells in your body that are joining to create information. So I think dropping down into the body for men as they're talking, and I'm sure you do this is why we use breath work, this is why we use movement, this is why we use those tools, which are probably more, I don't know if you'd agree with this, but more effective as a solution sometimes for men after they've spoken than it is to try and work out what we could do better next time. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, because again, men want the solution.
Yeah.
So a lot of men come to me, our therapy didn't work, Adam. I'm like, yes, it did, but you're not willing to accept that yet. And you want more practical things to do. So Steve Peters talks about this in the chimp paradox, where he says, if you want to navigate a challenging, stressful time, let's imagine you're in the car and you usually become very agitated, very aggressive instantaneously. You want to imagine there's like a red pause button there, and he encourages you to hit the pause, snap your fingers, say out loud, change. Because so many people are operating on autopilot. And a lot of people have created unconscious competence for aggression or for self-deprecation or for belittling others. They don't even know they're doing it.
It's efficient to them now, though,
Correct,
isn't it?
because they're just like, do I? And you're like, yeah. Oh, shit. So if people do come to me and they want to stop drinking, I'll say, we need to wake up the unconscious mind a little bit. We need to change, because right now you're walking through the door, jacket goes on the hook, bag goes on the floor, walk to the fridge, open a cold beer, pour it in. Isn't that better? But your brain's taking around 6 minutes to register it's actually alcohol. So the placebo effect is likely that it's a cold, refreshing drink.
Great book by Joe Dispenza on placebo effect, actually, because, there's so much in that these are just, again, it's the repetition. And not only is it placebo, but I think it's the safety of the habit.
Yeah.
It's not, and I talk about efficiency because you don't have to, it's automatic. And the brain loves a bit of efficiency, even if it's actually unsafe.
Yeah.
Because it's familiar.
Familiar is the word.
We'd always choose the familiar, efficient path over something that's actually better for us, because it's quicker, it's easier.
The amount of men that say to me, I'm just in my comfort zone, Adam. I'm like, really? Because you said on your form that you're 3 stone overweight, you're drinking too much, your marriage is struggling, you're not going to the gym. Comfort?
It's not comfort.
And they're like, oh. So familiar zone, they're like, oh my fucking God. I've done this my whole life thinking it's nothing comfortable about being 3 stone overweight. There's nothing comfortable about arguing with your partner every day. There's nothing comfortable about drinking yourself into oblivion, but it's very familiar. So I need to help you interrupt those patterns. So what we do is we hack the habit. I don't want to stop any part of you going to the fridge and opening a beer. What we want to do, however, and I don't work with alcoholics, by the way, so it's not necessarily aimed at them, but I want you to have an alcohol-free beer. It looks the same, and by and large, it tastes the same. So can we do that as a suggestion? Yes, but I have to go one step further back, which is before you go into the co-op. Rather than taking the left, you're going to take the right. We need to break the habit, break the pattern. Because again, about 5% of our behaviours are conscious. The rest are just completely unconscious.
That's right.
So if you come out of your driveway and you usually turn right to work every single time, but now there's roadworks, oh shit, I have to turn around and go a different way, interrupt the pattern. But how many times have you got in the car and you just gone, how have I ended up here? Because you're on autopilot, right? So you're just driving, your thoughts are going a million miles an hour, radio's on, etc., and you just arrive at your destination. You're like, I don't have a fucking clue how I got here, but it's just repetition. So it's no different with this. So we have to hack the habit. We have to interrupt the pattern of negative thoughts or of, again, self-deprecating language. I'm a piece of shit. I've always been this way. No one likes me. Yada, yada, yada. Pause. I want you to write down 2 things that you actually believe about yourself that you like. And don't say things like false affirmation bullshit. I want you to write them down. 2 more helpful thoughts. Okay, so if you don't think you're beautiful and amazing, don't write beautiful and amazing. Write down, I'm a good dad and I work hard. Great. We've just done a little bit of work towards building self-esteem. That's all we need to do. Then we can look to implement more healthy habits as time goes on. But right now, I want to hack what you're currently doing and make it more efficient.
For those that do that, and then they come up with but, because this is a common thing, isn't it? I am a good dad and, you know, I've got a good job. Let's just say that. And they go, but, and then they'll say something like, you know, I could be better. You know, I'm not there enough for my kids. I could get a promotion at work, but I'm not as organised as I'd like to be. That you see that there's and again, it goes to that efficiency and familiarity. You see that there's a pushback on accepting, and it goes back to what I was saying before about the protector part. Do you remember I said at the beginning about you being fragmented, and you're doing all this work in the background. You had all the knowledge, but there was a little part of you that, for whatever reason, felt stuck in this protector part because there was a vulnerability with the desire to learn more. Because actually, at the root of that is I'm not happy with who I am. And I want to be better. But what we do is the protect part says, well, we don't want anyone to see that you're not happy with who you are, despite the fact that you want to do better, which is a great thing. All they'll see is that you don't like who you are. And there's reasons that you don't like who you are, because you're a prick or you're a loser or you're lazy or whatever it is, because that's the bit that you believe, right? So even if they believe that they're a good dad or they've got a good job, there's also a part of them that will say, yeah, but I need to do more because there's this part of me at the back that's a loser and lazy, and I was never attractive at school and all the girls said no when I asked them out at the disco, and they're going to do that again if they see who I really am. So I must not come away from this, but equally I don't know how to be better. And so they're focused on being better rather than being themselves.
Yes.
So sometimes I'd guess that you must see this, and I certainly do with people. I know that I'm good here, but that's still not enough because that's not covering up the vulnerability enough. So how do you get that resistant person to accept? Because there are people that will go, I know what you're saying, press the red button, say change. I'm not going to do it though, because that's too easy. I want to get from here to there, and I want the magic wand. I don't want to do that because that's silly. I hear what you're saying and they can intelligently agree, but then that little, I guess, frustrated toddler is going to throw their toys out the pram. How do you deal with those characters?
I have to deploy the curiosity. So when people say, that's not possible, I'm a worthless piece of shit, no problem. What do you feel like this story is helping you with? What do you mean? Well, you've just said all this stuff. Do you think it's helping you get closer towards your desired end outcome? No. Okay, what do you think would be more helpful? I guess I could go out. I've just broken you free from victim state to creator within the drama triangle straight away. Most people, unfortunately, for those that don't know what the drama triangle is, there are 3 roles. You have the victim mindset, you have the rescuer, and you have the persecutor. The victim says, I'm a piece of shit, I'm worthless. The rescuer says, no, you're not, darling, you're amazing. They stay in victim because they know they can get validation from you. The persecutor, sometimes they can play the direct role, meaning that you say, I'm a worthless piece of shit, I'm an idiot, and the persecutor goes, yeah, you are a piece of shit, and you're a bad dad as well. Oh, fuck me. Okay. Some people rescue so much they get sick of it and then turn to persecutor.
Yeah.
Oh, I hate my job. Oh, don't worry about it, darling. Oh, I hate my job. Don't worry about it, darling. Oh, I hate my job. Well, fucking leave then.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, then leave. Oh, why are you shouting at me? Victim, victim, victim.
Yeah.
So my job as the literal coach, how to flip it, is known as the empowerment dynamic. So the persecutor becomes the challenger, the rescuer becomes the coach, and then the victim becomes the creator. I have to get them above the line as quickly as possible on a call. So I start every call the same way. Tell me a recent win, no matter how small, even if it's 5 minutes outside today. But again, typically I don't work with people that are at the absolute pits of despair of depression. Yeah. It's usually people that are a bit in their careers for context. Yeah. However, it doesn't matter where they're at right now. I need to meet them where they're at today mentally. So, okay, and what are you grateful for? If you had to choose something. I'm really grateful for my daughter. Why are you grateful for your daughter? Oh, she's hilarious. Oh, they just started smiling. What else? Oh, well, we had a really good day yesterday. What happened yesterday? And I'll start to match the energy. It's not false. No. I just have to build rapport. Yeah. Because if I'm going, all right, what happened yesterday? They're going to be like, fucking hell, what's going on? So I'm like, oh, what happened yesterday? They're like, oh, well, we went to the park and we had a good laugh and I just really love her laugh. It's so funny. All right, what does it sound like? I'm getting into absolute specifics and now they feel a little bit better. Yeah. Great. So now I've got you above the line because I'm not interested in coaching anybody.
Goes back to the frequency thing.
Correct.
I was talking about frequencies earlier, but if you change the frequency, you talk about it as above the line. It's the same thing, isn't it?
It is.
It's raising the frequency so now that they're more open.
Yeah, physiology.
Yeah.
If someone comes on a call with me and it's sat like this, I'll say, mate, can you do me a favour? Just put your shoulders back. Just sit up properly first and foremost. Let's adjust the posture. Okay, now let's bring in a bit of breath work. Let's just do 3 to 4 big deep breaths because right now some people come on really angry and really stressed. Yeah. But I'm really stressed about, what are you stressed about? Oh, well, this guy said this to me yesterday. That sounds really fucking annoying, mate. Yeah. Should we just calm down a bit? And they're like, okay, now we can focus on our breath and now I can regulate and get you back to where you need to be. So then it will be a case of, right, what would you like to focus on today? Well, I went to the gym yesterday, but my workout was really shit. Okay, what does that mean? Worse than what? Like, oh, it could have been better. Better than what? I'm always diving deeper again. I'm not trying to be a preacher. I'm trying to be a detective. Yeah. I have to dig around. Yeah. So when people go, I feel like shit, I'll go, what do you mean? I know what they mean intellectually. Of course, I know what it means to feel like shit. And I don't want to be pedantic or pernickety and frustrate people. And how does that make you feel? And how does that make you feel every 3 seconds? Because it's irritating. But go, okay, what do you mean though? Well, I've got low energy and I'm fat. That might be someone's version. Someone else's version might be I'm not having sex with my partner and I hate my job. So I don't know what feeling like shit means to you. So I have to discover it by asking good questions. And the best questions are the simplest ones. What do you mean? How have you come to that conclusion? Where did that come from? Why? Right? Now I've broken them free from the victim state. They're in creator. No problem. So what does that mean to have a shit workout compared to what? Well, compared to what I was able to do 15 years ago. Okay, would you agree that you're probably not capable of doing that right now? So that's not reality, is it, 15 years ago? No. So what can we do today to make it a little bit better than it was yesterday? I could do 5 minutes more. Okay, I can make it a bit more intense. Fantastic. What else could we do? I could drink a bit more water. Great. What else? I could meditate, perhaps. You recommended that before. I did. Should I meditate for 15 minutes? No. Do 2 minutes. Can you do 2 minutes? Yeah, brilliant. Then we build. Because you can have everything, but you can't have everything all at once.
No, and I think that's what everyone does. It's all or nothing, isn't it?
Yes.
Especially because when you're looking at, and I referenced social media earlier, and obviously I'm a big fan. I use it and it's been very good for my business. So I'm not going to knock it, but I think it's how you use it. It's like anything. We've all got a very similar brain, but it's how we use it. We've all got a very similar body, but it's how we use it. My body being 5'2" and a lot smaller than you is going to respond very differently to how your body will respond in the gym. And also my level of desire for the same things. Like I don't want to be, a fitness model. So we all have to find what it is that's unique for us and what we want. And then we go from there. But the problem is, and I think you've nailed it there with the triangle, is that there's these parts of us that are always in competition with each other. And it's always the part of us that's, I suppose, perceived to be the most negative that will be the protector. And it's protecting something quite deep for a lot of people. Even if it's not clinically trauma, you could say that it's more it's a deep level of pain that you've never been able to understand, which kind of leads me to my next question. I kind of have this theory that, and I said this to someone recently when I went on his podcast, and he's a stand-up comic, he's in the gym all the time, and he's got a massive body. It's huge. And we were talking a little bit about the gym, and I said, is it right that men are really, I said, and I asked him this, is it right that men are really trying to impress each other? Like, you know, as they get bigger and bigger and musclier and, you know, more and more sort of like, do you remember He-Man? There's a character in He-Man that's really square, and the neck gets shorter and everything else gets bigger. And I said, do you think that they're just trying to impress each other? Because I think a lot of women assume that men are getting muscly to impress women. And I said, I think actually a lot of men are getting muscly to impress other men, to show, it's a bit like the peacock effect, isn't it? I've got the better feathers. And obviously there's an evolutionary side to that, which is if you're the bigger, musclier, stronger man, I suppose on an evolutionary level, you're going to get more females or whatever and spread your seed further. I guess that's what it comes down to. But also I think there's a lot of dad issues for men. Their dad didn't, you mentioned this Ghanaian, was it Ghanaian? Yeah. Bloke where his dad wasn't around, and his dad sort of gave him a slap on the back of the head, and he didn't get that approval, but he got the love from his mum, but perhaps his mum was also not validating his emotions. So there would be this looking, I mentioned repetition compulsion earlier, looking for the archetypal figure of the man that will validate him. And I find a lot of men that do that are also intimidated by the men, because they feel like they're never getting the approval that they need unless they've got a title or a role or a purpose. Actually on their own, without those things, they're not actually enough. And so they keep chasing something. And actually in the chase and in the pursuit of being the guy that's approved of by his dad, which they'll never ever get, because that's about your dad, not about you kind of thing. There's this whole point that's being missed, which is you're not living your life. You're chasing something you're never going to get. So in those cases, and I think it's often the same for women, I've often spoke about my personal story, and I often say that even though my dad on paper is the one that's worse, it was my mum's lack of nurturing of me that made me feel worse. Because I think little girls do need that mother figure, and I think little boys do need the father figure. So with all that being said, very long question, I know, but do you agree to a point that a lot of men are really chasing the approval of other men?
Yes, because it's a status symbol at the golf club. And I've got a friend of mine, it's really interesting. So he's been coaching for about 3 years longer than me. Now, coaching is so interesting in terms of pricing, right? You've got some people that could go £50 an hour. I know some coaches that charge 100k for 6 months, etc. My mate charged about 20 grand. If you want to work with him, costs 20k for about 5 months. And the people that he works with are high net worth individuals. The reason why he prices himself at that is because rich people want to brag to their other rich friends about how much money they're spending on shit. Oh, your coach mine costs 20 grand. Can you believe it? Oh my God. And they're using it in a self-deprecating way whilst also bragging at the same time. But what a lot of people will say to me is, I do everything for my family. Fuck off. No, you don't. It's absolute nonsense. Let's get to what's really going on. So I won't tell them to fuck off, obviously, but that's what I'm thinking. Off. Yeah, fuck off. No, you're not, you dickhead. So it's more...
that's very Adler. Gone wild.
Correct. So really it's more a case of... okay, is that true? Yes. What do you mean? Oh, well, I want to provide. What do you associate to providing? Oh, safety. Do you feel like you ever lacked safety? Yes. How? Was it financially? No. I had a roof over the head, dinner on the table, went on nice holidays. Okay. Do you reckon it was more emotional then? I don't know. Was it physical? No. I was never hit or anything, and Dad never raised his hands to me or whatever. Right, so it's probably emotional then, would you say? Emotional safety is what you want to give. Do you feel like you're getting closer towards that goal by never being there and working away to, earn the X amount of figures that you want to earn? Because I can't remember the exact number, but there's almost this happiness curve to finances, and I think it's around £72,500, something like that.
In 2025.
Yes. So it basically means that when you hit 72k, by and large, let's assume you've got the family, the 2.4 children, all your needs are met. So you don't have to worry about anything financial.
Yeah.
Okay, you've got the house, you've got the car, you've got food on the table, clothes on the back, you can go on a holiday probably once a year, twice a year. After that, though, the figure isn't relevant.
Now you're chasing
something else.
Yeah.
So I'm all for progression when it comes to growing, because I feel like that's the true key to happiness, is progressing, whether it's lifting 2 kilograms more in the gym or whether it's getting a pay rise or a promotion at work.
It's very true.
I fully get that.
I'm so glad you said that. Just as a little caveat, progression over purpose.
Yes.
Everyone talks about a man needs purpose. So I think, but what if the progression is the bit, because that's the dopamine hit as well, isn't it? But there's also, if there's constant progression, yes, you might have an end goal or, an intention at the end of that. But ultimately, it's making some level of progression in your life. The purpose, I think, is overly said and not explained. And you've just said it there.
Correct.
I'm really glad you said that.
So I've worked with a Premier League footballer before. And I said, were you happier that you attained that? Or are you happier each week if you contribute to the team? Doesn't always mean by goals and assists or, clean sheets if you're a keeper, whatever. Well, when we win, I feel amazing. Do you feel amazing because you're a professional footballer, or do you feel amazing because you've won? I feel amazing because we've won. Well, what does the win mean? It means progress. There we go.
There you go, it's progress, yeah.
So it's not in the achievement, and you always need something else to work on, but that doesn't need to be the grandstand thing. It's known as the gold medal syndrome.
Yeah.
I've worked all my life, now I've achieved the gold medal. What happens now? I'll never feel as good as this ever again. You could do, but now what we want to focus on is actually contributing, because while I do work with high net worth individuals and they're looking at more, I said you can't get any more, because
so true. This is why you see a lot of professional sports people really struggle at the end
correct.
of their career.
You've got all that significance,
Yeah.
people chanting your name, asking for autographs when you're walking down the street. Fast forward 15 years, you might have a few people that half recognise you, and unless you're a legend of the club, for instance, they're not going to chant your name.
I'll tell you who's a good example of that is Johnny Nelson, who was on this. He was, he still is, he still holds the world record in his cruiserweight division, but he has gone on to being one of, I think, the UK's best boxing analysts. And in the sense that he's very well known for it, and he still makes progression in that field and still has stayed relevant for that reason. Whereas a lot, and he's very, very fit and still looks after himself, and he's got his proper nutrition now, and he's always on to that next level of progression. And I guess the purpose there is to keep moving forward. It's momentum.
Correct.
And so when it comes to the salary and not being present with your own family, if your momentum is taking you away from that emotional connection with your own family, then what are you actually seeking? And it's status, and it's respect from something outside of your family.
Yeah. So I said to one guy in particular, 42 years old, sold his shares in a company. He's worth about 20 million, something like that, ridiculous number. So what do I do now? I've got the house, I've got the cars, I've got a boat in Ibiza, I've got etc. I said, you don't need to get anything else. Maybe we work on giving stuff back. I said, what do you mean? Money-wise? I said, no, we don't have to go to the soup kitchen to show how sage you are, right? And how in tune with, humanity you are. But you love business, right? You love helping people. Yeah. Why don't you approach your local university and see if you can go in and do a free talk?
Yes.
And do a free seminar. He's like, what? I can do that. Yeah. If you ring up your local university and say, I've just exited a business, can I come in and talk to your business study students around how to build an empire and sell it? You tell me they're going to say no? I don't think so. Then you could take 5 mentees from the program, and then you could coach them separately and meet them once a week and do a collective group work. Oh my God. So it's about that need, that human need for contribution, of giving something back.
Community
but not
connection.
Not just through money. I'm not suggesting that. So it's not to say that everyone that has that, but look for something outside of yourself. But I have other people that go the other way, and they want to give so much to charity so quickly. So a guy set up another coaching business, and he was struggling to not make ends meet, but enough to sort of put food on the table for the family. That was about it. His wife has a good job though. I'm going to give away 10% of my profit to charity. I said, what profit? You haven't made any fucking profit yet. It's admirable, and I love that for you, but not yet.
You've got to put yourself first.
You've got time. So why don't we give back to your family first? Give back to you first. Then we can radiate that out to everybody else. That's the difference. So if you can start giving back to you, naturally your wife is going to grow from that. Naturally your kids are going to benefit from that. So it's not selfish, it's self-preservation.
Self-full, I always say self-full.
Correct. So before we start gaining more shit to impress people that you don't even fucking like, and buying expensive stuff that you can't afford to impress people you don't like, why don't we look at growing spiritually or mentally or emotionally today? Why don't we go out for another walk today? Why don't we listen to another podcast today? Why don't we take that action and do the healthy food shop today? Then the byproduct is Dad is more healthy. Dad is looking after himself. Dad is showing me now that I need to prioritize my health. So I'm being an actual role model too. That's how you can give back. So it's not to say I want people to lose all their ambition and to shut down the business and just be a stay-at-home dad. That's not what I'm getting at all. However, really assess, what am I doing this for? What is the purpose? And do it with compassion. Don't do it with judgment, right? Don't go, what the fuck is wrong with me? Why am I like this? I'm wondering how I got to this stage. I'm wondering how I can put steps in to really give my all to my family. Do I need to buy that extra car? Do I need to get that new watch for the sake of it? No, I don't actually. So instead, I'm going to take my kids to football practice. And to go further than that for contribution on a weekend, I might even volunteer to help out with the football coach and say, hey, do you want me to put the cones out next time? Do you want me to pick up the bibs at the end? You'll start to get a greater sense of purpose as opposed to the bullshit narrative that's been formed through insecurity.
I think there's something really important to say here, and I know we've got to wrap up in a minute. So a couple of things that I'll cover before we do. One is there's a lot of people out there without families. And I would say to those people, everything you've just said is so spot on and so important to recognise that beyond the chase for the money, and once you've got there, there is this way that you can then cultivate the same energy, different angle, give back. If you don't have family, you could still, and I think we're lacking this massively at the moment, is how do I then help the boys or the girls in my community? Because we need people that are mentors and volunteers in local communities. We're seeing knife crime go off the Richter scale right now. Every area that was like, knife crime happens in London or in big cities, it's happening in their areas. Northampton's one of them, where there's stabbings all the time. If you are the guy that doesn't have the family, that's like, well, I don't have kids, so that doesn't apply to me. Be a father figure for your community and just find those spaces that need your support, because if you're in a position where you can give back there. That has profound effects, ripple effects. So I think that's really important to say as well. But also, I think the other thing that I suppose we should end on is really, if there's someone out there now that's like, everything you've said is really, really valuable, but I just don't feel I'm ready yet for that. You said you don't work for those people that are in the pits of despair.
Yeah.
There may be those that are kind of listening to this going, well, what the flipping hell do I do then? What would you say to those people?
So I'm going to go back on that statement that I made, not with, I probably worded it poorly, meaning that there's clinical depression.
Yeah.
There's people that are sectioned because there's a fear that they may harm themselves. That's not typically who I help. I have helped people that are like that, right? So I can help anyone that wants to help themselves. And if I can't help them, I'll always find an expert that I think is more aligned to do that. I've done that several times before. If it is around addiction, for instance, and on the call I sense that I'm not the person for them, I will redirect them.
You'll signpost.
Absolutely. But when we do go to the extremes of people that are manically depressed and they are sectioned of fear of what have you, the people get them to, could you hoover the floor today to get a bit of purpose, to do something, to do a task? Oh, it seems a bit overwhelming. Could you turn it on and do a yard? Yeah, I could do that. Okay. And you build and you build and you build. But with someone that's thinking about making change and they're holding themselves back, the one question that cuts through all the bullshit and all the noise, have you had enough pain yet?
Yeah, rock bottom is a place that most people need to land.
Now, everyone's got a different version of rock bottom though, or they've got a different pain threshold is what I refer to it as, meaning that there's someone out there today that may have tried on a pair of jeans and they no longer fit and they go, fuck, I need to go back to the gym. I can't believe this.
Yeah.
Some people would rather die than change.
Yeah, you're right.
There's a huge spectrum there, of course, but until you've had enough pain, whatever that level is for you, it doesn't have to be rock bottom to make a change, by the way. So if you are just sitting there going, I feel a bit meh and I'm a bit, overweight.
That's a good time to do something.
Yeah, I'm drinking a bit too much and, the stuff with the missus could be worse, could be better. That's where I come in. It's the people that are like, Sometimes it's people at the absolute elite level that I work with, don't get me wrong, about the wanting to let's fucking go kind of mindset. But by and large, I would say it's usually 40-plus-year-old males, a bit frustrated in life, want to find what it is that they're truly passionate about, want to create more healthy habits and make changes. It is about the action, because mental masturbation gets you fucking nowhere. So you can listen to podcasts, you can listen to me waffle on all you want, but you know, there's another phrase is that talk doesn't cook rice. You can talk about it all you want. It's not going to do anything.
No,
So
you're right.
to move the needle, just get started with something today.
Yeah.
Start really fucking basic, because people overlook the basics.
They do.
Oh, drinking water and getting outside and eating healthily can't solve all my problems. No. Is it going to make it even worse? Correct. Is it going to make it even worse though?
Yeah.
No, because now you've done that, you might lose a bit more weight. Now you lose a bit more weight, you might be a bit more confident. Now you're a bit more confident, you might start having sex with your partner again.
Yeah.
Suddenly happy family is formed.
Yeah.
You go, oh, that's a bit of a stretch, mate. It's not. You're just overlooking it.
I mean, we haven't had enough time to discuss this matter, because there's so many ways that we could talk about so many things. And we did the first time we met in a very short period of time. And I was like, right, that's it, you're coming on. And you said yes. So it all worked out in the end. But as we said at the beginning, remind people of the website.
A-Game Consultancy. Yeah.
A-Game Consultancy.
A-Game Unfiltered is our podcast. And then just if you search my name on LinkedIn, it hopefully should come up, because I post on there every single day.
Adam Smith, just Adam Smith.
Yeah. If you type in Adam Smith and then A-Game after it, it'll probably link you to it. But I post on there every day. So hopefully it should be one of the more popular Adam Smiths.
Yeah. You're the most popular Adam Smith, so you'll come up. If I mean, I'll link it on to the podcast as well. But would you be interested, I'm saying this for everybody else, would you be interested in having discussions with people maybe on an Instagram live that want to come on and maybe talk to you? I think we can arrange that if that's something you're interested in.
Absolutely, yeah.
So people that want to ask more questions essentially after this goes out can come and maybe do that as well.
That'd be great, yeah.
All right, that's what we'll do.
Beautiful.
Adam, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
We've come all the way to Manchester.
Yeah.
In the Stretford Paddock podcast studio, where you are a fan of the show as well, aren't you?
I am indeed, yeah.
So let's just point them there as well.
Yeah.
And we'll see you again on Instagram Live.